Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Emma Wiltshire and I am our Customer Success Lead here at Curious Thing AI. We are so excited to share with you today how you can transform your customer service with AI and drive value in your teams and business. In the spirit of reconciliation, Curious Thing AI acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Before we start, I want you to cast your mind back to the last interaction you had with a real person at an organisation. Maybe it was to make an appointment, maybe it was to place an order, or maybe it was to make a complaint. Now I want you to cast your mind back to your last interaction with a bot. Maybe it was through a company website or over the phone. In the future, which one do you expect to have more interactions with? That's right, Gartner predicts that chatbots and virtual assistants will become a key customer service channel for a quarter of the world's organizations by 2027. Imagine if almost every interaction that you have is not with a human, but with an AI. And we hear some people might be thinking, does this mean that AI is replacing our humans? And not at all. This is all about how AI can enhance your humans. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Many customer experience and service leaders know about conversational AI solutions, and they can see the value in it in terms of cost and efficiency and effectiveness. So today we're excited to share our insights around where to begin when looking at AI solutions, how to deploy them in your organizations, and how to drive ROI with these channels. If you have any questions throughout today's session, please drop them in the Q&A below and we'll talk through them in the last 10 minutes of today. Today, there are so many ways for your customers to interact with your businesses. And different customers prefer to deal with different channels. And so companies that have omni-channel solutions can deliver better customer experience by meeting their customers where they are. When we look at voice AI assistants, the advancement in technology has come a long way from traditional IVRs. So to start off today's session, I'm going to launch a poll in the channel now, which is which of these solutions is your business currently utilizing? And so please would love to hear all of your responses in that poll here. Voice assistants can be used throughout your customer journey and complement your existing solutions. It can support your customers by resolving inbound inquiries and offering additional support after hours. And it can also drive business value by proactively reaching out to customers, offering support and reminders with a high-touch approach. Let me just take a minute now to play a demo for you of a voice AI taking an inbound call from a customer.
Welcome to the Good Company. This is Lola. How can I help you today?
Hi, Lola. I just wanted to check on my account balance, please.
Sure, I can help you with that. Just before we start, I want to let you know that I'm a digital worker here, or what some people call a voice robot. But don't worry, I can help with most inquiries. Can I start by getting you to use your keypad to put in your account number, followed by the hash key? Right, thanks. And can you please confirm your name for me?
Sure, it's Erica Smith.
Thanks. Great to meet you, Erica. How has your day been so far?
Yeah, it's been all right so far, thanks. How about you?
That's great to hear. It's been busy here today, but I love helping people, so that's a good day for me. Right, you are after your account balance. Your account is currently in credit with a balance of $49. Did you want to make a top up today?
Yes, please. I was just wanting to add probably another 20, 25 bucks.
All right, the easiest way to top up is on the site. Can I send a link to your mobile via SMS with that site link?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, that message is on its way. And was there anything else I can help you with today, Erica?
No, that was all I needed, thanks.
Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I'm always here if you need anything, so give me a call anytime. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.
Bye.
So as you can see here, voice AI can contribute to a really great customer experience by providing a personalized and consistent conversation for all of your customers at scale. So to start, let's look at how to identify metrics and measure ROI with new digital solutions. The first step is to understand the current state of your business and map it to the future state with your desired outcomes. So our first step is to unpack the problem and find the root cause that's underlying the issue that you might be experiencing with your customer service teams, for example. So as an example, if the problem that you want to solve is customers having long wait times, this might indicate that your agents are struggling to keep up with a high volume of tickets, or that there might be slow and inefficient support processes in place. And so these are the root causes that you want to identify when you're looking at a problem to resolve. You might also find that several problems have the same underlying cause, which is affecting your team. The second step is to look at all of the solutions available and map out the pros and cons for each of them. So virtual assistants are available 24/7 and they're scalable. So in the case of voice AI, for example, these AIs are great at getting customers on the phone to remind you that you've missed a payment, but they might not be as good at humans as actually negotiating that payment arrangement with them. And so you can map out the pros and cons for each of the solutions available to understand which one is the best solution to go with. The third step is to define your success criteria. So thinking about what are the key metrics that you want to achieve, and also what metrics matter most to your business. If your business was focusing on operational efficiency or reducing the cost of your operating center, you could look at success metrics like a reduced cost to serve. So an AI phone call is 5 times less expensive than a human team member. And so this is a great dollar value that you can measure throughout the implementation of an AI solution. You could also look at a reduced investment in employee training. So for a particular process, what would be the equivalent cost that it would take to either hire new people or train your existing staff if you were to bring in an AI to do that process instead? And the last step is to set realistic benchmarks so that you can set you and your team up for success. And to do this, you need to take into account the pros and cons that we identified for each of the solutions. So for example, if you're evaluating the contact rate for various different solutions, your human contact center might have a 40% contact rate. But if you're looking at introducing AI, you might increase this to, let's say, 70%, because the AI has other advantages like being able to make multiple calls, call customers after hours, and let customers call back when it's convenient to them. However, if you're looking at a different metric like the first contact resolution rate, for an AI, you would expect that this will be a lower benchmark compared to humans because AI can't resolve the complex types of inquiries as well as human can in some cases. So let's look at an example of breaking down the problem. You can do a root cause analysis to understand the current state and ask, is the root cause related to any issues with your people, your processes, or your product? And for different businesses, this will vary depending on what your business wants to focus on, and then also what root causes might be found in operating teams as you build up different support processes. So in this example, let's say that we have done our root cause analysis and we've identified that team effectiveness and productivity and individual workload is the root cause that is affecting the customer service center. And so here, if your goal is so this root cause will then affect what your goal is, which is to improve your team productivity and effectiveness while managing their individual workload. And so here, when we're looking at solutions to help expand your capacity, you could look at bringing in new people into your team, outsourcing certain processes, automating with voice AI or chatbots, or adding new self-service options so your customers can help resolve initial inquiries themselves. And so you can evaluate the pros and cons of each of these options by looking at things like the cost of the solution. Is the solution actually solving the root cause of the problem? And does that align with your business strategy? At this stage in the process, this is also a really great place to bring in other stakeholders into the conversation. And this can help with team buy-in and also validate that the success metrics and the ROI that you're measuring does align with your business strategy. And so at this stage, if you've chosen to go ahead with an AI solution, our next question is going to be, how do you achieve human AI synergy in your support teams with this new solution? So it's important to build and reinforce trust, especially if you're introducing a new channel or process into your team. So when we're looking at introducing a new AI into an organization, the first step that we have is to create a really clear AI identity. So you want to give your AI a name, a persona, a personality, all of these elements that will help your customers and your team build an emotional relationship with the AI. And you also want to give it a clear job description and scope of work so that your team and your customers are clear on the value that it will bring to their team and in their processes. The next step is to ensure team buy-in. So if you communicate the value that your AI can bring to your team members and to your customers, they will be the people that drive continuous improvements and find new opportunities to expand the areas of your business that you could be utilizing this AI solution. Then you want to gather feedback for improvement. And the most important step here for us is listening to our customers. You can do this with your team members and with test groups of customers to understand what can we be improving in the way that we've designed or set up this new process. And your frontline team knows your customers better than anyone else in your company. So we always ask our support teams that we're working with to try out the experience so that we can implement their feedback. And even after you've implemented an AI solution, we should always make sure that we have an open channel where our frontline team can share their ideas, suggestions, and feedback from your customers so that they can continuously improve the experience for their own teams and also for the customer experience on the other end. Then we can start looking at upskilling your AI. So this is in terms of implementing improvements with an existing process, learning more about your customers and how they want to interact with an AI, and then we can find new opportunities to expand. So we find that with a lot of customers that have an interaction with an AI and give feedback that it's a really positive experience, this is really great validation for a business to then say, what are other areas where we can still add more value by bringing in AI into other touch points in the customer journey. And the last step is to play to your strengths. So we like to start with letting the AI handle the repetitive or administrative conversations that your human team is currently doing so that your people can focus on problem solving and building relationships with customers, which is what people are best at. And so when we're going through the pros and cons of each solution as well, this is also where we want to identify where are the strengths that this AI solution can deliver to your business and for your end customer. So let's take a look at an example of creating a strong AI persona. So for us, this is a very fun part of the process, and it's also a very important stage to get your team to buy into the solution that you're introducing to your company. So the first step is that we like to suggest is to involve your team from the start. So this could be inviting people from your company to submit their ideas for names, and then they can vote for their favorite so that from the very start, they're involved in the design and building this new AI team member. You can also involve your marketing and branding teams to make sure that the conversational design of how the AI will interact with your end customer aligns with the tone of voice and brand of your organization. We also like to give our AIs a very clear job description because this can help your team see the value that it will bring to them and their processes and help build trust that it's going to make their jobs easier. And for your customers, this will also help build trust because they can see the value in the interaction and the purpose of the call. So when we have a very clear job description and scope of work for the AI, it makes people more willing to introduce it into their processes and also to interact with it in their customer journey because you know that it can do what it says it's going to do. And you'll also see that a lot of chatbots have physical avatars or images attached to them. And this can be a great tool for voice AI as well, because even as people, when we're on the phone with a human, we naturally will create an image of them in our mind, even if we don't know them yet. And so an avatar can help humanize your AI, whether it's via a chatbot or with a voice AI, to really create this humanized team member that is here to help serve your team and your customers. And you can even follow your normal employee onboarding process to really bring your AI in as a new team member to your organization. One of our customers introduced their AI at their company all hands and asked it some fun questions to show off its personality and also its capability as a support agent. This can help your team and your team build an emotional relationship with the AI, and it can also help more team members find other opportunities where they might want to introduce the AI into their organization or other areas of the business. So the last item for today is looking at where you can use AI in your customer journey. So the first place that we want to start is looking within our team and our operations to identify opportunities for improvement. So the first area that we'll normally look at is resolving or triaging inbound inquiries. AI can often resolve the first tier inquiries, which might be using your company's FAQ center to be able to help provide answers or defer customers into digital workflows that are already existing and in place. And if you wanted to have the human touch available for customers, we can also always transfer customers through to a human call center so that they can get to the right person quicker if we're not able to resolve the issue with the AI over the phone. This means that your customers are going to have shorter wait times and also easier access to more information and have a consistent and open channel for them to reach out to your business in the method that they prefer to speak with you in. The second question to consider is, are there any bottlenecks in your customer journey? And so if you can identify these points of friction, this can really make a big difference in helping bring your customers along your customer journey or helping your support team go through their onboarding processes. So the question that we ask is, are there any bottlenecks in your customer journey where you don't have enough people to execute a process, or that you just wish that you had more people to be able to throw at a certain area? Compared to hiring and training new people, spinning up a new AI solution or an AI-driven process can be a really great way to experiment with how can we make this process faster? What can we do to improve the customer experience at this point to help bring customers through different areas, through different stages of the customer journey? And the last area is, how can you use AI to proactively reach out to your customers? Voice AI is a great way to build high-touch customer management so that you can reach all of your customers in a scalable way and have two-way in-depth conversations with them at times that suit your customers. And so once you've identified the areas that you would like to implement an AI solution, then you can start to prioritize conversations that have low operator value but high business value. So often we see that these are the repetitive conversations that your human agents could be having, but the time is actually better spent in problem solving or higher value work. And so where can we find areas that we can add immediate value with AI that also alleviates some of the burden of work from your human team? So the most common place that we see people start to implement AI solutions is looking at inbound after-hours support. So this could be providing FAQs, arranging a human to call back during business hours, or deferring to digital workflow so that your customers can get value from your support services when they need it. We can also look at onboarding and activation support. So for example, when you bring in a new customer to your organization, you might have a welcome call to reach out to new customers, which can help reduce customer churn in the long run. And within onboarding and activation, you can help customers have a faster time to value by helping drive them through the different touch points within their activation journey. This could be helping with setting up their account, reminders around application details or support, or incentivizing people to make a first purchase or a first key event that will help them become an active and loyal customer with your organization. And last, we can start looking at feedback and follow-up calls. Because conversational AI is great at automating and scaling conversations with customers, this is a really great way to get meaningful, memorable, and personal interactions with your customers at scale. So if there's an area of your business, whether it's after the first interaction with your organization or 6 months in, where you'd love to be getting meaningful feedback from your customers, Voice AI is a great solution to be able to bring in customers into a deep and meaningful conversation with your business. And once you've identified what the areas that you want to introduce AI, you then want to start looking at what are the right channels for what your customers are trying to achieve. And so here we want to look at where do our AI solutions best fit into the customer journeys. So for chatbots, this is a great example of meeting your customers where they are. If your customers are going to be using your website, you want to be able to have a channel open for them if that's the place that they are in their customer journey where they're going to need support. So chatbots are great at resolving simple inquiries, self-servicing via chat, or deferring them to the digital workflows that are available in the website to be able to help serve themselves. And then we can look at voice AI systems, which are great at providing support after hours, optimizing your call center, and also having outbound calls that can help build stronger relationships with your customers at scale. And so that's all of the content that we wanted to walk through with you today. Thank you all so much. If we have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A or otherwise email us after this session. Let me look here. We have one question that's come in. Are there any conversations that are not suited for an AI or chatbot? Definitely. So especially when we're looking at outbound conversations. So having a human or an AI reach out to customers over the phone. One of the, often we find that conversations where there's not a strong relationship with the customer yet, we don't want to introduce AI at that stage. So in terms of any cold outreach or marketing calls, this is always better done with other digital workflows or with a human on the phone, because you need to have, because we always encourage our customers to have built a relationship between the AI and the end customer. And we'll also have, and the example that we spoke about before as well is that when it comes to, for example, negotiating payment arrangements, anything which requires the nuance and insight that you can get from a human to human conversation, these are the types of conversations where we want to defer to a human channel wherever possible. We also have a question from Millie. So how do you escalate queries that the AI is unable to answer? Definitely. So if you have an inbound conversation where people can call up and there's an inquiry which isn't, that the AI can't resolve, depending on how you want to categorize that, you can the AI is able to identify that this has been predefined by the business, that this is an item that needs to be escalated, and then the AI is able to capture the meaning and the sentiment of that response from the customer and then defer them to the right channel. So when it comes into designing the inbound call flow, this is when it's a really important stage to get your support team and your business involved, to say, what are all of the things that we commonly hear from customers? If a customer says something which should trigger an escalation, let's make sure that we build into the AI's training, knowledge and understanding that when it hears that, or it gathers that sentiment from the customer, flag that for the customer record, and then have the appropriate resolution, which in most cases is going to be transferred to a human, so that you can have someone speaking to a person when they need it. One of the other options that we have that we include for a lot of our calls is at the start of the call, we'll say, we'll give an overview, almost like the job description of why the AI is calling it and what it can do to help. And we'll also at that point say, if at any point you want to speak to a person, just let me know and I'll transfer you through. Because this way that we can still align with the customer experience and give them the option that they want, so that if people want to, would prefer to speak to a human in all cases, we can then capture at any point, if they say, I want to speak to an agent, transfer me through, I don't want to speak to you, we can say no problem and transfer them through to a person. And the wonderful thing that we found with this is that even when we give customers this option upfront in the conversation, the majority of people are happy to speak to the AI anyway. Even having that as a safety net to know, if I'm not happy with this interaction, I can speak to a human, gives also helps build that trust and confidence that I will have this conversation with the AI. And then that can again reinforce the relationship between the AI and the customer. And then relates to another great question. So how do I make sure that customers accept an AI interaction? So this question often comes up, especially when we have outbound calls. So especially if you're, let's say, having a call outbound, which is welcoming customers to the organization. So there's a few ways that we can help build the trust in this instance. So within CuriSing, we can send emails, SMS, and also voice calls all within the one solution. So normally what we'll do with an outbound call is 15 minutes before we call or an hour before we call, we'll send an SMS from the AI, from the organization, letting the customer know that we'll give them a call in the next few minutes. Otherwise, they can find us at the company here, or they can call us back on the AI's number at any time. And so by doing this, by providing the customer information and personalized information about their relationship with the organization, that can build trust that this is a AI team member from the company. And we also have a lot of customers involve the AI in part of the normal customer onboarding process. So if there's a welcome email that goes out, we'll include in the welcome email that this is the AI assistant that will be reaching out to your customers, or that you can call for further support. So by having these different options for customers, and also raising awareness around this is a AI team member of the organization, can really help build that trust. What would you say to someone who wants to convince skeptical or unsure team members that voice AI is a great channel to support operations? Yeah, brilliant question. So one of the one of the best ways that we do this is to actually get those team members on the phone with the AI. We find time and time again that people are always surprised at how positive the experience is. And I think it's because traditionally we've all had a lot of negative experiences speaking with an IVR or a bot that doesn't understand us. And so as soon as we can get people onto the phone to speak with the AI, that's always a good place to start building trust with your other stakeholders. And one of the other things that we'll also look at is, let's find a really low risk way to actually hear from our customers themselves what they think about using AI. So, so in some cases, if you have, let's say that you have a customer lodges a complaint, maybe 48 hours you want to have a follow-up call where you check that they've gotten all the information that they need, provide them more support, and ask them a couple of questions so that at the end of the conversation we can say, a good company is trialing me as a way to help support our customers. How do you feel about this experience speaking with me today? And so by using a sample, a small sample group of your customers, you can then be able to bring this back to your internal stakeholders to say, if 80% of our customers are actually happy to speak with an AI, this is something that we can validate as something that we can then use within our wider support team with those more meaningful interactions that you might feel might have more risk attached to them at the start. Let me just check if there are any more questions. Can you use chat voice and voice assistants together? This is a great question. So absolutely. Often what we'll do is that if a company has existing digital workflows or existing chatbot, but that might not be the place where customers are always coming in to receive support, we'll make it very clear that the AI's identity and its job description and scope of work is different from the chatbot. So, so in most of our conversations where we do bridge both of these solutions, if a customer has a conversation with the voice AI and there's a digital workflow in the chatbot, if a customer has asked an inquiry or needs support in a way that the chatbot can resolve, in the phone call, we can send them an SMS with a link to open that to that chatbot so that the customer can seamlessly go from the voice AI conversation to that other digital assistant. When we're defining out that scope of work, it's also helpful to give both of the AIs different identities, because often customers will have a different set of expectations around what's possible with a voice AI assistant versus what might be possible with a chatbot, for example. And where do you see most of your customers using a voice assistant? So our most frequent area is inbound calls, so offering those after-hours support and services within your business. So if we're looking at so if you're looking at automating your FAQ section or having a first line triaging system, voice AI is a great solution for that. And outside of that, we also have a lot of our customers that are using us for appointment reminders and follow-ups and welcome and onboarding activation calls, depending on where those bottlenecks are and points of value within their customer journey for the business. So we have 2 minutes to go, so I will wrap up here now. And wonderful. So that's all that we will have time for today. Thank you all so much, everyone, for joining us today. And also, please drop your name in the chat if you'd be interested in hearing another session to learn more about building out your AI persona, and we can set up another session on that topic as well. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll speak to you soon. Thanks.